These anti-metaphysical views are that which surrounds us. All liberalism, all feminism, all quasi-Marxism, all bourgeois Marxism, all cultural Marxism, the extreme left moderated a bit into the centre, high capitalist economics and the return of old liberalism. All of these ideas are materialistic and atheistic and aspiritual and anti-metaphysical. The sort of viewpoint that Evola moved towards, and there was a progression in his early life and spiritual career and intellectual and writing career, is towards what we might call metaphysical objectivism. Now, metaphysical objectivism is the absolute belief in the supernatural, the absolute belief in other states of reality, the absolute belief in gods and goddesses, the absolute belief in one supreme power, the absolute belief that certain iterations, certain forms of language and spiritual culture exist outside man. Truth, justice, the meaning of law, purposive or teleological information about how our lives should be lived. Most people in Western societies now are so dumbed down and so degraded by almost every aspect of life that nearly any philosophical speculation about life is indeterminate and almost completely meaningless. It's a channel which they never turn on. As always, a thinker like Evola proceeds from the individual and goes to the individual. This can give thinking of his sort a slightly unreal aspect for many people. His thinking is completely anti-democratic, Machiavellian to a degree, and even manipulative of the masses, as long as it's done within an order of tradition within which all have a part. I personally believe that, as with Evola, that people are hardwired for faith. Maybe 1 in 10 have no need of it at all. But for most people, it's a requirement. The depth of the belief, the knowledge that goes into the belief, the system they come out of is slightly incidental. But man needs emotional truths. Without the belief that there's something above you, and before you, and beyond you, and behind you that leads to that which is above you, we seem as a species content to slough down into the lowest common denominator, the lowest possible level. Evola and those who think like him believe that this is the lowest age that mankind has ever experienced. Despite its technological abundance, despite its extraordinary array of technological devices, turn on the television, turn on the radio, the World Cup is just about to begin. Everywhere there is trivia, everywhere there is celebration of the majority, everywhere there is celebration of the desire for us all to embrace and become one world together. The whole point of Evola's attitude towards these and other matters is to go beyond that which exists in a manner which is upwards and transcendent in its portending direction. This is a society which always looks downwards. What will other people think? What will one's neighbours think? What will the people out there think? The sort of Evolian response is that what they think is of no importance. Evola believes, in a very controversial way, that decline is morphic and spiritual combined. In other words, races of man have a spiritual dimension, have a higher emotional dimension, have a psychological dimension. There is progression round the circle, but there is decline. And decline and death are part of an endless process of will and becoming. Moderns who sneer at these sorts of attitudes, of course, forget that virtually every civilization that mankind has ever had were religiously and theologically based. Our contemporary liberal Tories like Cameron would almost not even begin to understand. To a man like him, theories of Evola's sort are lunacy. Are lunacy, quite literally. This is what Cameron or his colleagues on the front bench, and his even more liberal colleagues on the same front bench, would say about these sorts of ideas. But the irony is that 300 to 400 years ago, most civilized structures on Earth were based on these ideas, that even the modern ones that replaced them are based upon the contravention of these sorts of ideas, which means they realized they were real enough to rebel against in the first instance.